Hey, I'm Chef Rich, a classically trained chef, author, and award-winning culinary educator. With over 2 decades of experience, I've discovered that food is more than just food. It's our greatest medicine. But here's the truth. There is no quick fixes, magic pills, superfoods, or diets that work. Welcome to a different kind of cooking show. Our mission? To inspire, educate, and prove that getting healthy doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. I'll share tips on saving you money at the grocery store, saving you time in the kitchen, and creating meals that everyone will eat. I'll expose the lies about food, reduce the stress about what's for dinner, and remove the struggle of getting healthy. If you give me a chance, I promise, we'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious. Now let's get cooking. Hey, Chef Rich here, and welcome to One Plate Kitchen, where we save you money at the grocery store, we save you time in the kitchen, and we make delicious meals that are easy, fun, and healthy. Now today we're going to be making kind of like a little bit more in-depth dish, but not really. I mean, it seems like a lot, but I promise you it's not going to be a lot. We're going to be doing like a Chipotle pork dish with some beautiful sweet potatoes. And then while that's cooking, we're going to change it up a little bit and we're going to do some fresh garlic biscuits. I'm telling you, these are going to be so easy. You're going to do these at home, you're going to love them, I promise. Now, since you know what we're making, let's look at the stars of the show, our ingredients. So we're going to do our biscuits, like I said. I've tried to do like whole wheat biscuits for my family at home, and it's always leftovers. It always has a flavor that they don't like or something like that. So I try to work with it to get a healthier version of a biscuit that they like. And what we came up with, it's like a 50-50 mix. So what we're doing today is we're doing 50% whole wheat flour and then 50% of an AP and all-purpose flour. All right, then we also have some garlic in there that we're going to throw in there and a couple other spices. We have some cold butter there. We have some cold milk. We have our chicken stock. We also have our beautiful sweet potato here. We have some cilantro. We have everybody's friend, our one plate herb salt. Now, if you haven't gotten yours, go to the website and check it out. Here we have a little triad of chipotle pepper, which is a little spicy. We have some cumin, and then we have some oregano, like dry oregano. We have some garlic, onion. We always have to show love to our frozen friends. So we have some frozen vegetables there. And then we have our pork shoulder. It's a little bit different cut where most people won't use it because it's a little bit tricky to use. But I promise you, in this dish, you're going to love it. It's so easy and cost friendly, which is a good thing. Now, since you know all the ingredients, let's get cooking. So first thing we're going to start with is our pork. So I'm going to get our pork over here. And we want to make sure that we take these. Now, these come usually in big sizes like this. So what I did is I just cut it in half. That way, one portion is good for each person. All right, now I have it on paper towel because what I want to do is make sure I dry this up. One of the enemies of a nice crust is moisture. All right, so I want to make sure I get in there and just dry these up really well. All right, on both sides. All right, so those are looking good right there. Now I'm going to get my spice mix. And for this, all I'm going to do is just add some salt to our spice mix and just mix this up. So I got that all mixed in there. I'm just going to get it, mix it in with my fingers just to make sure it's all incorporated nicely. And I'm going to season this up. All right, don't be scared to season it up. And be pretty liberal with it. Make sure it gets all in there. And then you can take your fingers and just kind of rub it in there just to make sure, you know, everything gets a little bit of flavor in there. So we do one side. I was always asked, well, do you season both sides? And my answer was always the same. Well, I like to eat both sides of the meat, so yeah, I want to season both sides up because I want them both to taste good. So we'll come over here and do the same thing on this side. Just season it up. Now we'll just pat them dry, make sure they're nice. Make sure every bit is seasoned up well. Now we're gonna add, we have our pan is nice and hot. Maybe we're gonna turn it up a little bit. 1 tablespoon. Just because we're searing meat doesn't mean we need to add a ton of fat to it. So we got 1 tablespoon in there. I just want to make sure that I go all around with it. And you can see it's a pretty hot pan right now. You see the smoke coming off of it. Now I'm just going to take it and start getting my pork in there. Shake off any excess. I want to make sure I don't get any excess like seasoning in there, because what will happen is if you do, it can burn, and we don't want that to happen. So again, I'm going to get this one in there, and the last guy will get in there. Now let's clean up this mess that we got over here. Now before I go any further, I'm going to wash my hands. I got to make sure these are washed. Remember, we just played with raw pork, so I want to make sure I wash my hands well. All right, so now this is going nicely. Now, if you look at it, so when you look in here, you see how you're starting to get some moisture come out of the bone area? That's okay, that's a good sign. All right, we're not getting enough color on here. We can flip it over. Now, one of the things you have to be careful with is we're kind of doing like a dry sear on it. All right, we don't have a ton of fat in here because we don't need a lot of fat in there to still get some nice color and really develop a lot of flavor. But you want to be careful because it is dry. You're going to start to get, like you'll start to inhale a lot of these spices that are coming off of there. So you want to be careful with that. It smells great, but if you're too close, you'll definitely inhale it. So be careful with that. So we're just going to flip it over, take a look at it. You can see we have beautiful color on there. It looks incredible. All right, so we'll flip this one over and we'll see, okay, we're getting some really nice color on these. I'll turn these over. At this point, we're really just looking to get color on it. We're not going to cook it right now. As we add more vegetables and everything to it, and we add our liquid to it, that's when it'll start to cook. But we really want to develop a lot of color on this right now. So that looks perfect right there. That looks great, actually. Now from here, what we're going to start to do is just start to build on top of this. All right, so I have my onions, and I'm just going to start adding my onions right on top of that. Now the great thing about this dish is when you go to make it at home, you'll see we're just adding layer on top of layer on top of layer to it. We're really not going to be doing much mixing around or really chopping it up. We don't have to. Now I know I'll get 4 dinners out of this easily. So I'm just going to kind of move this around here. So we just start to build on top and build on top of that, which is great. I love it. All right, so it's a really easy dish to make. Now from here, the next thing we'll do is we're going to start to add our sweet potato on that. Remember, we're going in order of density. I know my onions can take a long time to be in there. Nothing's going to happen to them. You know, if they stay in there a little too long, they just develop more and more flavor. But I know my sweet potatoes need time to be in there. Steam will start to get in there. We're going to start to add some stock into this a little bit at a time. And that steam that's in there will start to cook my sweet potatoes. They'll start to cook my onion. And they'll start to cook everything else in there. So we'll just add our sweet potato right on top. And you could just mix this in, you know, mix it with the onion. Now from here, I'm just going to add a little bit of stock to it. And you can hear, you know, what's happening. I'm going to turn the heat up now because now it's going to start to build a lot of steam. And that steam is what I'm going to use to really cook all the vegetables that are in there. I'm going to get my frozen veg in there. And we'll just start mixing this all in, incorporate it all in well. Again, one of the easy dishes to make. I love like more of like a one pot type cooking where I can feed everybody in the family with just one pot. I don't have to do different dishes and mix it all around, and it's just more dishes to clean, and I'm not a huge fan of doing dishes. I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic to this now and just start mixing that in there. Now, if you wanted to, you can also get in there and start like moving that pork around as well. So we'll get in there. Now you can use the same technique if you were gonna if you didn't want to use pork and you wanted to use fish, you could do the same exact thing. If you wanted to use beef instead of pork, you can do the same thing, or chicken or turkey, anything like that. The technique is gonna be exactly the same. You know, what we add in there is totally up to you. Right now I'm gonna do is just add a little bit more stock to it. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Then I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, cover it, and just let it cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. So we'll bring it up to a boil. Now, one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to boil it. All right, boil it is not a good thing. All right, so I just want to bring it up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, cover it up, and just let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. All right, these are thin cut pork steaks, so they're going to cook pretty quick. All right, we want to keep them nice and tender. There's enough moisture in that steak that it'll still keep it, you know, pretty moist. Now, while I'm waiting for that to come up, what we have here is we have some herb salt. We have some sugar, a little bit of sugar. We have some garlic, and here we have our baking powder. All I'm going to do is kind of just mix this in with the flour. And I just have my 2 cups of flour in there. Now, if you didn't want to add garlic, you didn't have to add garlic. It's totally up to you. I just want to mix this in now. And the only thing we're trying to do here is just incorporate like all those other ingredients with the flour. All right, so we just get it mixed in nicely. Now, if you haven't made biscuits before, I promise you it's the easiest thing in the world to make. We're gonna take our butter. The big thing with this is everything has to be cold. All right, so you want cold butter, you want cold milk or water, whichever you're gonna use. Now, I already cut my butter, so you'll see, I just cut them into like rectangles. All right. Now, the key for making a good biscuit is we don't want to overwork it, and we want to make sure everything is nice and cold. So now what I'm going to do here is just using my fingertips, I'm just going to go in and kind of pinch the butter. So I go in, I get my butter with the flour, and I just kind of pinch it together, and I let it go. I go in, pinch it together, let it go. All right, so all I do is go around and do this to the whole thing. All right, you're just using your fingertips, just go around and pinch this together. All right, we're gonna do this, and you could do this with a machine. A lot of machines have like a biscuit attachment or a dough attachment that you can use to do this. Or you can just cut in this flour, cut the butter into the flour. And it's a good thing for kids to do too. Kids love to do this. All right, now I see it's come up to a boil. I'm gonna turn this down. Give it just a little stir. I want to make sure everything is nicely incorporated there. I say, okay, that's looking perfect. Looks beautiful. And it smells incredible. I mean, not only do you get the smell of the chipotle and the oregano and the cumin, but you also get the smell of the sweet potato as well. All right, it starts to smell sweet. So what we're gonna do now is just take our foil and just cover this up. We're just gonna let that do its thing for 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and take a look at that. But while that's working, I'm gonna work on my biscuits. So you'll see the biscuit batter or the dough starts to come together. And again, you just want to use your fingertips and just kind of go through it and mash it up. All right, that's why it's good to use cold butter. If your butter was warm or like room temperature, what will happen is once you get this mixed in, it becomes more like a batter. And then when you get them in the oven, they will just like crush down. It'll be more like a huge pancake than a biscuit. Now, we don't want to go too much with this also. One of the things we want is a flaky biscuit. And the way we get flaky biscuits is we have these nice chunks of flour that's still in there. So we just are gonna mix this up a little bit more, and then I'm gonna add my liquid to it. So I say, okay, this is perfect. You can go more if you wanted to, but it's not necessary. I like these big chunks of butter in here because that'll give me a really light, like layered biscuit, which is what we want. So that's in there. Now I'm gonna get my milk, cold milk, and just add that to it. And I'm just gonna start mixing this in. So we got a little bit more flour. We're just gonna dust this in here. And then I'm just gonna start mixing this in. And I say, okay, that's perfect right there. Now we're getting to that nice consistency that we want. Now from here, what I'm gonna do is just turn it onto the table. Now all I wanna do here is just start mixing this in. I wanna make sure my fingers are all clean. And you'll see it's the easiest dough to make. We're just gonna kind of mix this in. All right, now if some of it sticks, and you can see it sticking to the board a little bit, don't panic. All right, if it gets a little sticky, again, we'll just get a little bit more flour and just kind of work this in a little bit. All right, we'll add a little bit more flour. And this is one of those things, you can't be upset if it doesn't come out right the first time. With flour, it depends on what kind of flour it is. Some flour will absorb more than others, more liquid. It'll absorb more liquid than others. So I can't just be like, well, it's only 2 cups of flour and that's all you need. That's not true, because some will absorb more, some will absorb less, depending on the humidity also, how humid it is in your area. Flour will act differently as well, so we want to be careful with that. Okay, so this is looking good right here. I'm gonna just clean up some of the stuff that's sticking to my board. And now we'll just mix this in. Now I say, okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of flour to just the bench. And just flatten this out a little bit. Just working with my hand. I don't need a rolling pin to do stuff like this. It's such a loose kind of dough that I don't need a rolling pin. I can just use my hands and just kind of like smooth it out. If it starts to stick to your hands a little bit, again, just use a little bit of flour and just press it out. One of the keys to this is how much you roll this out. If I take this and I roll it out so it's super thin, what will happen is I'll have more of a hockey puck than a biscuit, and that's not what I want. All right, so you're looking for about 1 inch to 1/2 of an inch in thickness. So I don't want to roll it out too much where it gets like too thin on me, because then it won't be like that nice flaky biscuit that I'm looking for. All right, so this is perfect right here. Now I'm gonna grab my biscuit cutter and I'm gonna push down. All I do is push down. You want to invest, if you're going to start doing this, which I hope you do, you want to use a biscuit cutter. You don't want to use a cup. A cup has a rounded edge, and what will happen is once you do this with a rounded edge, it kind of pinches the edges of your biscuit, and it won't give you that rise that you're looking for. I also don't want to take my biscuit and like twist when I get in there. All right, because when I twist it, what happens is I'll pinch those sides down as well. All right, and if I pinch them down, what will happen is it won't give me that rise, because now I'm kind of preventing it from rising up. So all I'm going to do is take it, push down, and lift up. Just push down and lift up just like that. If it gets a little sticky, you can just take it, your biscuit cutter, put it on some flour, and just go around. You can see our edges are cut perfectly. All right, they're cut beautifully. So I'm going to go right here and just go through. Now this could be for breakfast. I mean, if you didn't want to put garlic in here and you wanted to use this for breakfast, you could definitely use the same recipe for breakfast. Just don't put the garlic in there. So now I got them all cut out. I'm going to put them in my pan. Now you could do this a couple different ways. You could do this on a cookie sheet. If you're going to do it on a cookie sheet, I would put some parchment paper down or even some aluminum foil down, and it's just to prevent it from sticking or anything. But I'm going to use a cast iron kind of grill pan. And all I'm going to do now is just take my biscuits and go around the edge. Now this is another little trick or tip. If your biscuits touch as you're putting them around, what will happen is they won't give you the crispy edge because they're touching each other. But if you give them some room where there's some air in between, you'll get a crispy edge then. So it depends if you like it crispy. If you don't like it crispy, that's totally up to you on how you want to place them. But we'll go around and just put these in there. Once you see how easy this is, you'll never buy that store-bought stuff again. Now from here, we have this big mound of dough. What am I going to do with it? I'm not going to throw it out. This is a great thing about making biscuits, is all I'm going to do is take this, kind of push it all back together, maybe just add a little bit more flour, flatten it out, and make me some more biscuits. I only got room for, maybe I can squeeze in one more in there, just one more. Let's just squeeze in this guy right here. Now, one of the things you want to do here, you have a couple options. We could take some butter, if you wanted melted butter, and put it on top of it. That you can definitely do. That's totally up to you. Or one of the things I like to do is I always have a little bit of extra milk left over. So what I always like to do is take a little bit of the extra milk and just lightly, and this is the key, just lightly brush each one with some milk. All right, what'll happen is the sugar that's in that milk, as it cooks, will help it brown and give it that really beautiful brown crust. Now remember, we're using like a 50-50 mix. So we're using some all-purpose flour, but we're also using some whole wheat flour. All right, so they're naturally gonna have that brown color because of the whole wheat flour. This is just gonna make it a little bit more rich in color. And again, I don't have to do anything extra because it was just whatever little milk was left over is all I'm gonna use. All right, so that is perfect. So now I'm gonna get these in a 425 degree oven and let them cook for about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I would check them after about 12 minutes to see where they're at, and then you can judge depending on your oven. So I'm gonna get these in the oven, I'll be right back. Hey, Chef Rich here, and I want to officially introduce you to my one plate herb salt. Now this is the perfect all-in-one seasoning that I carefully handcrafted to enhance any dish. Now our proprietary herb blend not only provides delicious flavor, but also offers antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties for the health-conscious eater. Now it's also packed with vitamins and minerals, and that green hue comes from the natural chlorophyll found in fresh herbs. To get some for yourself, visit our website. Okay, now my pork smells incredible. So let's take a look at it and see where it's at. So I'm gonna be careful lifting this up. Or we're just gonna let it simmer for a little bit more, and then this dish is pretty much done. All right, vegetables look incredible. Meat is very tender, but it's not like super tender where it's gonna like fall off the bone. All right, we still want to keep some of the integrity of that in there, but it smells incredible. Now I want to get some of my fresh herb in there. Now this is a rustic dish, I mean, you can see it's pretty rustic looking. So cut-wise on my herb can be the same thing. It doesn't have to be really finely minced or anything like that. I'm just going to chop this up a little bit. And then we'll add that. Looks great. Now, when we add these herbs to it, I don't want you to think it's just parsley, or it's just cilantro, or it's just rosemary. All right, I want you to start thinking of this food as that's vitamin C, that's vitamin B, that's antioxidant power, that's anti-inflammatory power. These are all things that's going to help me feel better, emotionally and physically. Okay, so the timer just went off. So our biscuits are ready. Our pork is ready. This smells incredible. So let's see these biscuits now. Oh my goodness. They look and smell incredible. All right, they're super hot, so you want to be real careful with this. Now to plate it up is super easy, and it smells so good. I just can't wait to dig into these. I can smell the garlic that's coming off of those biscuits, so I definitely want to start eating. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to get our pork, piece of meat in here. So we'll get that down. That looks so good. Now all I'm going to do now is just load up with a bunch of veg. This liquid is way too delicious to leave in here, so I want to make sure I get some of that in there. I don't want to make it a soup per se, but I definitely want to get a lot of the liquid because there's a ton of flavor in there. Now I want to get some of these biscuits. Now remember, they're super hot, so be very careful. And we'll just grab them. You can see they got a lot of nice color on there. We'll just get one. You can see like the edge of that biscuit. Oh, it looks incredible. And they're so soft and flaky. You know, I know it seemed like when we're doing a biscuit and then we're doing a pork dish, I know it seemed like a lot, but it wasn't. All right, it doesn't get any easier than this. You know, if we work together, getting healthy and feeling better doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. All right, stop doing all these crazy fad diets or listening and doing what you see on social media. None of that stuff works. All right, I promise. We'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious, and we'll do it one plate at a time. God bless, and I'll see you next time.